Hi, everyone. It's Robbie. This is Miscellaneous Candor. Frank, honest, and otherwise outspoken. Tune in this week. Steven and I have a long conversation. I kind of opened up a little bit I had a little bit of a rough week, but it's a new week, so it's a new day. We talk about so much in this podcast. I don't even know if it's worth discussing. I will say we talked about Diddy again. But we also, of course, had to discuss DeepSeek. If you don't know what DeepSeek is, in terms of our audience, do take a look and look it up. We talked about that in relationship to AI specifically, and we talked a lot about some of the things that have come down. Trump, we had some different perspectives in terms of the administration and the decisions that are being made. Some which we agree with, some we don't. But this is a really good, robust conversation. So sit back, listen, and enjoy the show. And remember, follow us, review. We're definitely getting more followers. We have some different reviews too on Apple Podcasts, but you can also too put your reviews and ratings in Spotify and any other podcasting platform that you may be using to listen to us. All right, here we go. Welcome back, everybody. This is Miscellaneous Candor. Frank, honest, and otherwise outspoken. I'm Robbie, and we are here with you this week. Lots to talk about, lots have happened. I think that moving forward, this is probably going to be a pretty interesting podcast over the next few years. Steven, hey, how you doing? What do you think?
Robbie, hello, my friends. It is I, Stephen Kennedy, your board certified atheist, at your service and at Robbie's service if she likes. Uh, I am doing well. How are you? There's a lot going on in this world, a lot of madness. A lot of
I
madness.
know. I know. I mean, okay, so I think that, well, first, we to everyone on this podcast, thank you for following us. We got a couple more reviews on Apple. Thank you. We have one review, but we've gotten a couple people that actually ranked our podcast, which is great. So please go out there and do the same. I think that we're continuing to get more listeners. So awesome. Awesome. Please keep listening. Tell your friends. But I think that we're definitely going to keep in terms of what we're doing, podcast reviews, um, definitely conversations about current events, our personal journeys. I definitely have some things I want to talk about this week regarding that, and as well as things around AI. I mean, everybody's talking about DeepSeek, but we can get to that. So, just with regard to podcasts, Stephen, one, I'm sorry, audience, and I'm sorry, Stephen. No, I did not listen to Jason Alexander this past week.
Oh, you're killing me.
I am. I'm sorry. I'm killing you. I'm killing
I
me
just feel
because I
like you
keep
don't care
like
about
not
it.
keeping my word. I'm
I
sorry. You're
feel like I
right.
feel like you
You're
don't take me
right.
seriously. You don't
Oh,
value my
oh
opinions.
my
That's what I feel like.
god. Oh my
It hurts my
god.
feelings.
That's
That's what I'm
not.
just saying.
Just let it out because that's just what's been going on with me this past week. Just let it out. I will get to it. I do
All right.
promise. If it's not next week, it'll be the following week. But within the next 2 weeks, I will listen to that damn
Within the
podcast.
next
I
2 weeks.
promise. Yes, yes, yes,
Okay.
yes,
All
yes.
right.
I
Okay.
promise. Okay. I want to give myself some window
All
because
right.
I don't want to come back next week because I got so busy and I didn't have a chance to listen to it. And you're like, oh, da, 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 da. So
You,
I'm giving myself a 2 week runway.
there's nothing more important in our lives than this podcast, Robbie.
Okay.
There's nothing
Okay.
else going on. There's nothing else going
Okay. Well, listen to this. I love Scott Galloway, and
Yeah.
I want to play this.
I had
This is
no
from
idea. Really?
okay, okay. So I want to play this where he's talking about some tactics and his perspective on things that are happening with Trump right now. And I
Let's
wanted
hear
to
it.
just see what you think. This actually, Reed Hoffman was on this podcast with he and Kara Switcher. And for anyone who doesn't know, Reed Hoffman is the founder of LinkedIn, and also too he's on sits on Microsoft's board right now. He was used to be on OpenAI's board. Okay, so
And
can
Kara
everyone
Swisher
hear?
is a tech podcaster, basically of Silicon Valley. She's very well established, very well known in the tech community.
Yes, and she's very, very left too. So
Yes.
anyway, all right. Okay, so I'm going to play this. Hopefully, you can hear it. Tell me if you can hear this, Stephen. Straight out of the fascist handbook.
Yeah.
Intimidate anyone who says anything negative about you. And if these companies, in my opinion, had more fidelity to American values and the very important role media plays in checking power, they wouldn't be bending the fucking knee like this. So, is it a practical thing to do? Yes, you can't argue with that. Has it sent a chill across the entire country in what is an incredible double standard that the critics of President Trump are now feel that they're being held to? Look at the shit he has said about people that's been incorrect. So Bob and Mark, I expected this from Mark. I was disappointed to see it from Bob. Where are the men? Where are the Americans who are going to stand up and say, no, if you're not guilty, if the entire ecosystem has never been held liable for things much more slanderous or disparaging than these statements, I'll see you in court. In this case, it wasn't a statement. Okay. So clearly, Scott Galloway has some strong feelings right now. He's going, as people say, balls to the walls in terms of his perspective on how people are bending to Trump, and not challenging him on the things that are wrong. He is giving him credit for the things that he agrees with. Like, he agrees that um, criminals should be deported. He agrees, probably even more so than we do on this podcast, that DEI went way too far. He's like said that multiple times. So for those who say that he's, left, etc., he's not. But for him to talk about this is a book out of the fascist guide, I mean, I think that's a lot. And I wonder, I know people are, concerned. I mean, even myself, I'm concerned. But what do you think, Stephen, about that statement? Like, what do you think? I don't know why I'm asking you. I know what you think, but tell the audience what you think,
Yeah.
Stephen,
Yeah, I
about
think you
what
can predict
Scott
what
said.
I'm thinking. I think he's absolutely correct. It really is a fascist movement. It's all right there in front of our faces. Now, why are all these CEOs um not doing anything, but why are they bending over backwards, as I prefer to say it, bending over and taking it in the ass? Why are they bending over and taking it in the ass? Because unfortunately, they're and I have, on one hand, I do have sympathy for them, right? Because they're stuck in the middle, right? They
Yeah,
have to respond to the shareholders,
yeah, they
unfortunately, and
do.
they have to. And I'm sure many of these guys don't want to. They have, I'm sure they're very much against the way Trump is taking things on, but unfortunately, they are kind of forced to do so, right? It sucks, but that's unfortunately where we're at. Everything's connected, right? They can't just be like "fuck you, Trump."
I
Uh,
know they
this isn't going to
cannot.
work. Sorry, it's a tough place to be in. So I don't blame. I think Scott maybe is placing a lot of, maybe too much blame on the CEOs, but you have to think about the consequences of them retaliating, right? What's going to happen to the companies that they're running?
Yeah, yes and no, right? I guess what he's saying is that depending on what the company is and how they're running it, there's going to be consequences. And I think that you're right in that sense. But then there's like others, for example, like, with the DEI stuff, like Costco, they're not backing away. But here's the thing about Costco not backing away, and I want to talk through this. First of all, the whole idea, and I had a clip, but I can't find it. I wish that we would stop, or people would stop conflating DEI does not equal merit. Because there's this conversation
Right,
now
right,
about how like DEI means that it's lesser and it's
right,
subpar and it's only
right.
about what your lifestyle is and what your appearance is. So that means for anybody that does have a different appearance or a different lifestyle, people are looking at them now and questioning everything they've done. You don't know how hard people have worked. You don't know what their background
No,
is. You don't know, if they maybe they really do deserve to be there and they just happen to be of that background.
right,
Why I
and
just hope that people, I should say this, I hope that people can separate the two and not just buy into the fact that DEI means substandard. Because when you look
right,
at some of these people who are being appointed into these cabinet positions, they're not, they don't have merit, they don't have
right. Yeah, exactly,
experience,
exactly.
right?
Not only that, you look at all these corporations. You got so many unqualified people at the top, and what DEI really is all about, what it really stands for. Now, it may have been taken too far by some companies, but
Yes, and I do
really
believe
what
it was.
yeah, but really what DEI stands for is giving qualified folks an opportunity to be in a role that they deserve, who otherwise would not have that opportunity without the DEI initiatives, right? When we're talking specifically about putting people in those roles, if they are qualified, it's about giving them the chance to be in that role.
And let's just call it out too. I want to call this out too. Since we're talking about meritocracy and being open and fair and honest, so if we're going to be open and fair and honest, there are some people that just do not want to work with people who have different backgrounds and different lifestyles.
Well,
It's one
yeah,
thing to
exactly. Yeah,
put that,
absolutely.
that's one thing to not have to say it. Like, I'm fine. I don't want to know what you're doing in your personal life. Be honest with you. I don't want to know. I don't care at work. I don't want to know that. Do your thing. I don't need it in my face, right? That's why I say sometimes it gets too far. I don't need it in my face. But when people's physical appearance are different, but yet they still can do a job, that's kind of on the other person if they're assuming that just because
Right.
their physical appearance is different that they can't do the job. Have you looked at their
Or
resume?
or
Have you
or
talked
if
at
they
their
have personal prejudices,
That's
you
what
know,
I'm saying. Like we
yeah.
talk about the bias stuff, but I'm not trying to make people feel guilty because there's a whole thing you don't need to feel guilty. We don't need to feel guilty. It's not about we can have a discussion about history, but that's separate. This is about present day. Do you think that somebody who looks different than you is lesser than? And if you do, if you have those ideas in your mind and you bring them to the table when they're doing work and they're overperforming in the job, but you just have an issue with their difference, that's on you. Period. And stop. That's on you. That has nothing to do with that person. And that person should not be penalized. But I don't think there's enough people who give a fuck. I think this is a way for people to hide behind their issues and
But
not getting to know people. And that's another thing too.
yeah.
Open up your freaking network. Stop trying to assume just because someone's different that you can't get to know them. Maybe you'll find out you actually have more in common than you think. People are always surprised to know that I'm obsessed with Lord of the Rings. Right now, as we're taping this podcast, I have it on in the background. I'm watching it. It's two towers that are playing. Yes,
Oh
people on
god.
the back. Yes, you can
Why?
laugh.
These are not things you should admit on our podcast,
I
right?
don't, but the point is to show
No, I get
that
your point. Yeah, I get your point.
people are so like fluid and they have so many different sides of them.
Yeah.
If you're an
Yeah.
open-minded person, get to know somebody a little bit different from you. Might be surprised just having a conversation in terms of what they're like or what they're interested in. You just never know. That's all I have to say about that. Okay, Stephen, go on. I'm done.
Well, circling back to these CEOs taking it up
Yes.
the ass, the best way for Zuckerberg, for example, to all of a sudden stand up and say, "No, Trump, I'm not taking your dick in my ass anymore." The best way to do that is for us, the Facebook users, the Meta users, to stop using the platform if we disagree with what he's doing, and then you're going to see him turn around.
Yeah, you're 100% right.
So let's start.
And
If we don't agree with what a company is doing in terms of their DEI initiatives or any several other things that Trump is putting into play, if we don't agree with these companies bending over backwards for Trump, let's stop using the products and the services that are being offered by these companies. And if they see it happen with enough users, they're all of a sudden going to stand up and get a backbone.
yeah, they will. I don't think that's going to happen with enough users, but I do
Well,
think that
yeah,
if that does happen, that'll be the case,
but that's
especially.
that's really
And
the only way to
yeah,
combat
I
this,
just
right?
don't know though if Zuckerberg's a good example though, right? Because he kind of blows with the wind, and everybody knows that. He's always going to do what's best for his shareholders. He did that in the first election when he said he did the things that the administration was asking him to do to, for Trump to be out of office, right? He did that because he knew that that was going to help his shareholders.
Yeah,
When he fired a bunch of people when people weren't firing people, he did that for his
yeah.
shareholders. He's doing this now for his
Well,
shareholders.
that
So
that's exactly
again,
my point,
he's
though. Is
just
that
like
if
that's
we
him, but
that's
he's
that's
not going
exactly my
to ever
point, though.
have a backbone.
If people stop using Meta, the shares are eventually
Yeah,
going to take a dive, and that's when he's going to have to say stop. Let's change the way we're doing
yeah,
things.
but who is going to stop using Meta?
Well, that's the other issue, right? But that's exactly this is the conundrum, right? So this is why you know this is the problem, is that it's not going to happen if we're talking about reality. But that is the only way to make things change, is if we say, hey, I'm not using Meta anymore, and it happens in mass, right? But it's not going to
Yeah,
happen in reality.
yeah. I mean, that's it. I mean, that is it. Like, it's not going to happen in mass. There's too many people making money off of
Especially,
it.
and you've got
It's
Trump. He's just he's a megaphone for spreading his agenda, and people buy into it for whatever reason. He's a master con artist, right? So this is
okay.
there's well, what it's a fact. He's not a businessman. He's a complete failure in business, right? But he is a master con artist.
Hold back. Um,
But he uses the rhetoric that he throws out there. It's all fear based. He's a fear monger, right? He uses people's darkest fears to enable them to believe what he wants them to believe, right? He takes their fears and he spins it out into something that he'll be able to connect with those people with. And so whether he's speaking the truth or not, they want to believe in his rhetoric.
okay, so obviously we've moved into current events, kind of, but
That's right. Yeah.
have you? I just want to know though, for the audience's sake. Obviously, I played a clip from a podcast. Did you listen to anything this week?
I did. I
Oh, what'd you listen to?
I listened to an interesting podcast called This Week in Startups. Have you heard of it?
I feel like I have, but tell me about it because it sounds like something I would like to listen to since I listened to
I think
All
yeah, I
In,
think you would.
Acquired, and some other business startups. Go on.
Yeah, and while I was listening to this podcast, I was thinking this is actually something that Robbie would like, as opposed to
Mhm.
all the other podcasts that I tend to listen to. And you tell me how much you would not you prefer not to listen to them. It's not your kind of, but I think this is your kind of thing. So the host is Jason Calcanis, who came out of the .com boom back in the day,
Mhm.
uh, and he talks about a lot of a lot of different interesting things about startups, about different tech startups that are, some controversial things about the valuations. Just talks about all of these different startups and what they're looking like. What he talks about the different things that these startups are offering. He talks
Mhm.
about the valuations. He talks about different perspectives, different things about the startups, and kind of it's a good conversation
Mm-hmm.
about, and you learn in addition to learning about these new startups, you also in that process get to learn how startups function because he goes into that depth, right? And
Mm-hmm.
for that reason, I'd say it's not for the it's not this podcast isn't for the layperson. It's I think you should be a little tech savvy and kind of have a
Business savvy
solid,
too.
yeah, business savvy, tech savvy, have a solid understanding of how startups function, how the tech world functions, so you won't get lost because he does also talk very rapidly. So you've got to kind of be able to pick up and understand things. So I'd say it's not for the average listener out there. I think he's speaking to a specific audience, but
Okay.
it's engaging. I like it. So check it out. Uh, Again, it's called This Week in Startups. Jason Calcanis.
I'm gonna listen to that. I'll probably
Yeah.
listen to that before Alexander's, but I'm gonna try to
Oh
listen to
no,
both in
Robbie.
the
No,
next 2 weeks. In the next 2 weeks, I'm gonna
no.
listen to
You
both.
you have to
See?
promise me you're going to listen to Jason Alexander first. And
Why
for
do
those
I
of
have to
you,
promise that?
because that's more important to me. Don't you care about my feelings? I I feel like you
Okay, why
don't.
is
Again,
this
we're going
always like this emotional blackmail that you try to do on the
because I'm good
podcast?
at it, Robbie. I'm good at it.
Are you though? If I called it out, that's all I want to say.
I'm joking. It's truly hurting my feelings. You know, I don't think
Well,
you understand how much
unfortunately,
of an impact you have on my feelings.
you know what? Unfortunately, this day and age, I feel like no one really gives a fuck about anybody's feelings. And yeah, I said that.
Wow, who are you?
Uh, because I just, mm, I've had a tough week. Can we pivot into just our personal journeys right now, and I can just get
Sure,
this
let's do
out.
that.
I just had a tough week, and I'm realizing. I mean, I've always known this, but sometimes I just get tired of always being there for other people. I think and I don't mean this in a bad way, but I do. I tend to look out for a lot of other people, and I find because I do that, then my expectations become high, and I need to lower my expectations about other people. I need to help. I need to help and not expect things. Number
Yeah,
one, and I've gotten better at that, but sometimes I still go back and forth between being feeling used and taken for granted.
yeah.
And
You know,
I don't want to, and I think that's a constant thing for people. But I also too, I don't want to have, I'm doing my best not to have just purely transactional relationships with people.
yeah.
And people talk about that too. Like I saw something too that really, there are two things I saw on social media. I'm back on social media, by the way, FYI.
Oh, so you kicked me out.
But I just kind of loaded it onto my computer. I don't have it on my phone. I'm trying not to have it on my phone or have like a dummy account on my phone that doesn't have really anything where I can just look at like exercise things when I'm at the gym. But okay, so my point is that I'm trying not to have transactional relationships too much because I've seen these things. I think I told you about this one thing that I saw. It was like sometimes you have to be a villain in somebody's story, um, and then there was another thing that was saying that uh, you always want to be the dumbest person in your friend group, and when you're not, you want to move on to a new friend group. And I was just thinking about that, and I was, and it is for like businesses and all that. So I get that, but have we gotten to the point where we're just so transactional about our relationships, or we really are? We just don't give a fuck about anyone unless they can do something for us. And once they stop
Right,
doing anything for us, then we just cast them
right.
aside, or put them in a space where we'll say hi, but that's it because
Yeah,
we want to elevate the people who are
right.
going to make us look better. And it's all a fucking facade anyway. Like
And
all
I'm
of
familiar
this,
with that phrase too. Uh, and I think it's absurd. You know,
and you talk about people hurting people's feelings. Like that hurts me. It
what
hurts me
does?
to know, no, just to know that there are people who are out there who are okay They see like you don't be afraid to be a villain in someone's story. Like they're like, yes, I want to be a villain in someone's story.
Yeah.
I get what that means in the sense of like the concept of sometimes you have to say no, sometimes you have to push back, sometimes you have to, not engage if you feel like there's going to be somebody that's going to have be detrimental to you. Like I get that part, but the way it's so sharp and assumptive, there's no context around a statement like that.
Yeah.
So someone else could take that and it could be totally different. There's no concept of grace, honor, respect, all that stuff. Like when Scott was talking about where are the men, and he talks about this a lot in his whole men thing. But the idea of having character and grace, respect, and kindness is just for that purpose. It seems to just be dead. It's like, okay, I'm gonna help you, but thanks for helping me. Peace. That's that attitude, and it makes you not want to, and you
Yeah.
get exhausted, and then when you're sad, or let's say, if you're going through something, in this case, me, nobody gives a fuck. That's how I feel sometimes. Sometimes I feel like that, and I'm just like I said, I
Are
just
you
had a
surrounding yourself
hard
with
week. Well, I need
the?
to surround myself with different people. That's the
I'm not
thing. Like
saying
there's certain
different people. I'm saying those people
No,
plus
I
other
need to
people.
put me plus yes, but I've been in a situation where I haven't been able to really get out as much and meet new people. I'm going to be able to do that in a couple of weeks, and I'm looking forward to that. But I do need to just be around more, just different energy. And
Yeah.
I'm not a person where I'm just going to disregard other people, but I just don't want to keep being always the person that's the give, give, give. And
Sure.
I've always struggled with that because I mean, I don't have a problem helping people. And I don't mean that in just like a monetary way or anything, but networking, connections,
Yeah.
wanting to do good by other people. And it just seems like I felt like as I was growing up, maybe you felt like this too, because we're about the same, right? So growing up, I felt like that I wasn't the only person out there that felt like that. But now I'm starting to feel like I'm alone.
Are you
And I
kidding?
don't,
You're not
I'm
alone.
not. I know I'm not. But what I'm saying is the instances of seeing that type of sort of congruence of wanting to be a good person didn't seem so far removed. And if you look at to even who we put in the White House, there's things that I understand. Like there are some hardcore things that he did. Like for example, and I've said this, and I know I'm gonna get some pushback from this, but I'm glad he reversed the transgender female athlete thing. I
Yeah.
don't think they should be playing in the
Right.
NCAA.
Right.
I don't. Period.
Right.
And stop. That's my feeling. I have a personal connection with that, and I don't agree with
I
it.
feel the same
Do I
way.
have issues with transgender people? No, I don't. Do I
Right.
think that they should be playing in women's athletics? No, I don't.
Right.
Two things can be the same, right? And
Yeah.
so, but on the other hand, just the idea that you got to be mean and vicious and hard on everyone. I
Right.
don't like that. And I do feel like there's a lot of that in this administration. I don't like the fact that, we're going to talk about this, I'm sure, and
And
so that's
just
what comes
so
back to how I'm feeling. I think that a lot of that is pressing down on how I don't feel like there's, and then Jimmy Carter died. Anyway, it's not, I'm trying to put this into overall sort of context, not talking about my personal situations too much
right.
because I don't
Right.
want to share that too much on the podcast to be direct, but I'm feeling, like I don't want to help people as much anymore. I don't want to extend myself. I don't want to, like, I want to just focus on me, which I have been doing, but I feel like I want to just double down even more, and just not care. And that's not the person I am. And the idea that I'm feeling like that is bothersome. Okay, I'm done.
Well, first, I just want to say you said who we put into the presidency, but as you said, we all. it's a little over 50% of only the people that voted. So, not everybody. I think if everyone voted, he would not be in the spot. But my point is, there are people that are not selfish. There's many people that are not self-serving, and But also, I wanted to say, in my personal life, in my work life, in business, I do things for people with the expectation that it will be returned to me. That in a in whatever manner, I do it with an expectation. But in my personal life, I don't help anyone with an expectation. I do it just because I want to, because I care about them. But at the same time, my social circle is broad enough that when I need help with something, someone is there to help me. So I think maybe just it's about expanding your social circle.
Yeah, that gets complicated too, though. But yes, I hear you. I do need to probably expand my social circle. I have pulled it in, especially a lot since COVID. Um, no, I don't. I don't feel like I have a lot of people who I can go to for help. And yeah. I mean, some. I mean, like business wise, yeah. Personal wise, no.
You know, but I think you know I don't think that you're doing anything wrong, because that's what friendships are about, right? I don't think you should, look, you should feel bad about the way you think. I think you're doing the right thing. You're caring about your people without expectation, right? That's the way it's supposed to be.
It is supposed to be that way. I guess
But
it's
at the same
sometimes it.
time, people are supposed to be there for you as well. It is,
Yeah, yeah, that's the thing. That's the thing. And I'm like, okay, so it's just me just because I'm feeling that, but I don't know. Um, let's go on. Let's go on. I wanted to talk about some more bullshit. Hold on.
feelings. La
um,
la 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 la.
let's see. And it doesn't help that my personal relationship that I'm in right now, it's not the greatest, and that's my living situation, but it is what it is. We will get that through that too. I don't want to talk about it. Please don't ask me. We've
I
talked
was
about
not
this
going
before.
to. I can tell it's a
Okay.
sensitive spot. I would never do anything intrusive.
Okay, come on now.
Did it cross my mind for about 1.5 seconds? Yes. And then I told myself, Steven, you will not talk about this right now. You will not ask Robbie any questions about this right now. We will wait till the next episode.
Oh my god, you're crazy. Okay, all right. I'm gonna put you on mute because I need to find this Diddy, this
You're
Diddy
good.
clip.
Okay.
But I want you to talk about just talk about something else from current events perspective, and then we'll go into AI. But go on. We're gonna just say
Sure.
okay.
So actually, this is a good opportunity for me to talk and just listen to myself, because I think it was last episode where we were talking about oh, what's his name? That actor. I don't like him, but he's got this his own podcast where it's just him. And I was talking about how he was putting me to sleep. Jeff Bridges, yeah. Uh, it was so boring, and I don't ever want to do a podcast by myself because I do not want to bore the hell out of listeners. And I don't think I would get actually. I don't think I'd get any listeners, any followers, because Jeff Bridges is a celebrity, so he automatically had a following. Um, but since I'm not a movie star, I don't think that's going to work for me. Um, but actually, I don't. You know what? I'm starting to think I would maybe enjoy listening to my own voice, which yeah. But again, I think it's just me. I don't think I would have others. I don't think I get many followers, except maybe myself and my mom. Uh, but anyways, my point is that I think if you're going to do a podcast, talking about podcasts in general, going back to that topic, I think if you're going to do a podcast, it's important to have at least two people, maybe three, no more than three, because I have listened to some podcasts where there are three participants, and I feel like it kind of gets the conversation gets kind of cloudy, and then you've got people going all over the place. If you've got three people, the conversations just really go off the tracks, and it's hard to really stay focused, because when you've got three personalities, if you've got three strong personalities talking at the same time, they all want to go in their direction. But with two, I think two people is the golden ticket, so you can have good conversation. Sometimes my partner in crime right here, Robbie, goes off the rails, and she goes off and starts
I'm
talking
back.
about all sorts of crazy things, and I have to reel her back in. I have to reel her
Oh
back into
my
the conversation,
God.
and keep her on track. But generally speaking, I think two people is the best way to have the best combo for a podcast.
You know you're crazy, right? That last part, especially because that's what I do. I'm really, but you know what? That's
I
okay.
well,
I'm going to give it to you. I'm going to give you the floor. You can have that one for today.
you know what,
But,
Robbie? I think I'm enjoying this solo podcast thing. I
oh
think
my God. Well, you can do
it's
your
actually
own
kind of
solo
fun.
podcast if you want
And
to,
there's no
Stephen
one to
Kennedy.
stop me. There's no one I can just and that'd be an interesting experiment. I should do
Oh
my own
my
solo podcast.
God.
And actually, I don't think like I said, I don't think I get any followers, but gosh, I like listening to my own voice, and I think it'd be a good experiment.
We
Huh?
should do a mini podcast and make it a subscription part of our podcast, and then
Oh
people
yeah,
can subscribe to listen to you talk about your musings.
yeah. It's just whatever's going on in my head. It's just throw up.
I wouldn't want to give that. I feel like people have to pay for that because who wants to listen to that for free? I just saying.
Here we go. Here we go.
I couldn't resist. You walked in the door. Okay, so I'm sure I don't know if people are still following the Diddy mess, but there was
I've
a
lost track.
there's a new documentary out. It's on Max, and it's ID, but it's on Max. You can see it. The last episode with Diddy's former assistant, who has all these text messages, and
Can I just stop you for 1 second? My
yes,
mistake. Not Jeff Bridges. It's Jeff Daniels.
oh
Jeff
okay,
Daniels is the one. I actually like Jeff Bridges. I do not like Jeff Daniels. He's the one with the solo podcast. Sorry. Continue.
okay, okay. Jeff Daniels. Thank you for clarifying that for
I
the
It
audience.
popped in my head. Yeah.
Okay, no problem. No problem. Okay, so I'm gonna play this. Hopefully, it'll be the good part. But essentially, he plays these video. You know how when you have an Apple phone, you can do voice notes
Yeah.
and you can send them to people.
Yeah.
So Diddy was sending these voice notes to this assistant, and he kept them. And he talks about the things that he would ask him for, and how, and also too, Cassie would call her things freak offs, and they would call it freak off, FO. But evidently, this guy would set up things called King's Nights, and he would have like these set. So Diddy is just, he was always okay. I'm just gonna play this, and then we can talk about it. Hopefully, you can hear this. I'm putting this up high. Okay. Pines even sharing audio he says is of Diddy telling Pines to bring him various substances during those Wild King nights.
Phil, I need some Cialis. Give me 20 Xanax, please. Hey, Phil, I need a plan B.
I remember hearing the words, "Prove your loyalty to me, King." He grabbed me by the shoulders, pushed me to a girl that was on the couch.
The alleged parties similar to the infamous freak-offs detailed in the federal charges against the star, where women were allegedly forced to perform sexual acts with Combs and others, often under the influence of drugs. Okay. Did you hear that part? Phil, bring me some Xanax. Bring me 20 Xanax. Bring me
Yeah.
some mushrooms. Bring me some Cialis. I'm going to need a plan B. I'm going to need a plan
Oh, I missed that part.
B.
He said that?
Yes!
Oh my
Yes!
Wow. Disgusting.
It is. But you know, the thing about it that's so crazy is his voice. Like you can hear it's him, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then he's talking about all the stuff that he had him doing and all this, he basically he felt coerced to have sex in one of these king nights because he said
I
he
I
knew
was
how
confused about that
crazy.
part. Was he coerced to have sex with Diddy or with someone
No,
else?
someone else who was in the room, like a woman that he had drugged up based
Okay,
upon the
got it,
things
got it.
that, because he was like, he's told him, show, are you going to show loyalty to your king?
Hmm.
That's what Diddy
And he
said.
was he might have been recording that as blackmail. So if it's like if the assistant turns on
Yes,
him, he's going to provide
yes,
this evidence that he was raping some
yes,
girl. It's all a plan,
yes,
man.
yes. That's exactly because it was being taped.
Yeah.
And so that was the thing. He said that these king nights, Diddy wouldn't necessarily be participating. He would be like orchestrating and filming and all of that, right?
Oh wow.
I
Okay.
guess the freak offs were the ones where he would be. It was crazy. The thing that's so it's just this documentary. I will say, like I'm laughing at some of the stuff, but if you watch it, when I watched it, particularly from episode 3 through episode 6,
What is this documentary on? Is it on Netflix or what is it
it's on
on?
Max. It's on
Oh,
Max,
okay.
HBO
Okay.
Max, or formerly HBO, now Max.
Okay.
Um, from episode 3 to 6. Like 1 to 3 is the stuff that you already know, and it also too 1 talks about his past and his childhood and all of that. But 3 to 6, these women and what they talk about and how they talk about him and what they say he did to them. If they're lying, okay. But there's one thing I have noticed: a lot of these women who are talking about what he did to them and stuff, they all look the same. Like he has a type. Diddy
Mm,
has a type that he likes, and if you look at these women, you can see it if you're paying
mm,
attention. So there's that part. You know, I talk about everyone has a type.
yeah.
You can see the type.
Okay.
They
Interesting.
all favor Cassie. They're not necessarily as pretty, but if you look at them, the type is there.
Okay.
And then the other thing, it's so just like monstrous and dark. And then you realize how often all he was doing was just like having sex and doing drugs just constantly,
So
daily,
this is what I don't
all the
understand. Like, how
time.
do you have
And
time to function as a human being?
that's
How is he
what
doing?
I'm saying.
How is he doing his work? How is he functioning when he's so busy, wrapped up in raping people and doing these crazy, all this madness, manipulating people? Where does he get the time?
Exactly. It seems like, and that's what I came away with, that towards the end, as he was, before the fall, right? Towards the end, you notice there wasn't a lot of new music coming out. There wasn't a lot of clothing line stuff. There wasn't a lot of like business coming out from him. Like the last 5 years or so, I mean, there was the Delion, the alcohol stuff, but that was like a marketing partnership. He would get on commercials and that would be
Oh
it,
yeah,
right?
it's
And
just
get
a
paid.
face, the talk. Yeah,
But he hasn't really made anything really good in the last like 5 or so years.
yeah, that's true.
And it's like, okay, this dude is really, I mean, he did make that Love album. And so but they talk about how much that was like all about sex and stuff too, and he was all high on that. But other than that, he's just, I think, just be doing this shit just because he has a bunch of money that he's accumulated over a period of time. And this is what he's like. This
This is
is
his
his
life.
work. This was his life. That is
Ah, okay.
so freaking crazy. And talk about mental health. So Charlemagne the God said on his podcast, he talked about there was this one time when him and Andre Harrell, who was Diddy's mentor, who's passed away, they were at some sort of what's my phone? Okay, goes to voicemail. They walked into a festival or something, and they walked into Diddy's trailer, and Andre was with them, and they Charlemagne said Diddy said to him, I really like all the stuff you're doing around men's mental health, and I have to say to you, I don't think I can think of one day where I felt happy. I don't think I've ever been happy.
Hmm.
And that's some
Interesting.
crazy shit now that all this stuff is coming out, right? Like
Yeah.
people say this stuff. It's just like, oh my God. I felt so, I was really, and again, this goes to me, like I was really touched emotionally by what these women had to deal with and
Yeah.
all, like what they had to endure. Like it, it, it hit me for the
Yeah.
first time. I wasn't laughing about the baby oil and all that stuff. Like I really was like, wow, this guy is really, he's a piece of shit, but you say that, um, what's that word? Flippantly.
Yeah.
But I didn't feel that when I watched this documentary. Okay.
You know what I'm curious about? How did this affect his sons? Are they monsters just like him now? Do they think this is normal behavior? Are they doing the same thing? Are they now predators too? Because this for them this may be considered normal behavior if their father's been doing it their entire life and probably involving them in all of these, in all of these shenanigans.
I mean, here's the thing: we don't know. Like we know that a couple of the sons were accused of certain things, but then we know too that he would that the assistant said too. His job was to erase all of the things on the iPads and the electronics and wherever Diddy would on his phones and stuff, where he'd have
Hmm.
these videos so that his kids would not see him. So
Hmm.
this assistant's job not only was his job to give him this stuff and give him all these drugs and all this kind of shit, right, and set up this stuff for these king nights, but also too was to sanitize his life. So I
Hmm.
don't know. That my whole thing is, I feel like they knew. Kids know, but they may not know all the details, right? So
Yeah.
I feel like
Yeah.
they knew some of this, and they knew he like beat on women, and they knew, but some of the stuff that they were talking about, I don't think they knew, and I don't know if
I mean, my assumption would be,
it's crazy.
especially if they're a little older, maybe late teens and into adulthood, I would think that he would involve them in his parties.
Maybe some of them, but maybe
Yeah.
some, like they said that there were some parties where they were there, where the girls were underage, right?
Hmm.
And then, but some of these things that people talk about he did, especially in this documentary, I don't know if he would want them to see some of the stuff, like the
Hmm.
monstrosity of it. Just how it was just, ugh. I mean, some of the stuff was out of fucking horror movies,
Yeah.
right? There was another documentary on Peacock, and what this one woman described, it was out of a horror movie. It was something that you would see in a horror movie in terms of what she said he did to her. And so I cannot imagine that he would subject his kids to that. But what I do think is that as they're getting older, and if they were subjected to the other parts, the parts that are less, that are bad but not as bad, right?
Hmm.
They start to understand, because as you're an adult, you start to understand just how capable people can be of
Yeah.
crazy stuff.
Yeah.
And I know you're always talking about how, and I guess that's why I was upset too early, because you're always talking about how people are animals and this and that, and they're horrible, and everybody's a piece of shit. All
And
these
you
things
know
that
I'm
you
right.
say.
And you
No,
realize I may
I
be
don't,
right.
I don't want you to be right,
Yeah.
and I
Yeah.
still
I
am
do.
on standing on that. I'm still standing on that. That I don't want you to be right, and I just think that you're doing a lot of this for the podcast. But though, you know
I,
what, audience, I'm going to take that back, because I will say this:
and
before we did the podcast, when we were friends and everything, not podcast mates, he still would say this stuff. So I do believe he
and
believes it.
just to be clear, I when I say that, I don't mean that everyone behaves like a crazy animal. What I mean is that as humans, just at its basic level, we are animals. And so we have animalistic instincts. But there are some people that rise above that and are not, they don't behave crazy. But I think as humans, just at a base level, our natural instincts are those of an animal, a bear, a lion, a typical predator. We are predators, right? We are predators. We kill other life forms that cannot defend themselves to nourish ourselves. So, that's my point. We are not above other animals as we
Okay,
like
so
to
you know
pretend.
that that's the first time you've ever added context to that. Out of all the
Well,
years I've known
it's
you,
it's more
that
fun
you
getting you
said that.
riled up when I don't add any context.
Oh my God, here we go. Okay, all right. Well, we just had a breakthrough here, audience, on miscellaneous candor, frank, honest, and otherwise outspoken. Um. Anyway, okay, I'm done with the Diddy stuff. So, what do you think of DeepSeek?
Oh man, this is
We're going into AI. What do you think? I mean, everybody's been talking for a week. I'm actually glad that when we recorded and then released our podcast, because the when we released our podcast, um, that morning, the
which
day
morning?
before Tuesday, Tuesday mornings, it comes out Tuesday. Our podcast comes out Tuesday mornings every Tuesday morning, or Tuesday. It is released on that day, but the night Monday night was when the DeepSeek thing came through. So I'm actually glad we didn't talk
Oh,
about it
was it?
because I wanted to kind of see what was going to be the conversations of the week about it. So
Hmm.
what do you think? I want to hear your take on it before I talk a little bit about it.
Well, I mean, there's always going to be competition out there. So I don't think the likes of Chat GPT, Open AI should not be resting on their laurels. I think it's important for everyone to keep on improving and not think, oh, we're the only ones out there that can achieve this. Because guess what? There's always going to be someone trumping you.
No pun intended.
Right? No
Um
pun intended. So
um
I'm not surprised. I'm not
mhm.
surprised. It's going to happen. There's going to be another competitor that comes out that's even better than DeepSeek, right? So now, how much of it do you think is hype, and how much do you think
That is my
is real?
question. Yes. So that was my
Well,
question.
it's I'd say it's open ended right now. I think a lot of people have to assess it.
That's the thing. Like, is this 100% true? Should we believe what the Chinese say, right?
Well, look at
Because the big thing is about DeepSeek, it's not even so much the model as it is what it took to make the model work. And it was so much cheaper, right?
for our audience. Can you give a brief summary, just for the folks that don't understand, what we're talking
Yes.
about?
Yes, yes, yes. So, for everyone who doesn't know, DeepSeek is the Chinese version of OpenAI, which is ChatGPT. So, if you use ChatGPT, um, DeepSeek is what it's called in China. And China came out with it, and there have been a lot of conversations about how expensive it is to make you be able to use Chat GPT. So when you pull it up and you're asking it questions, there's a lot of computer power that's happening in the background that you don't see in data centers. And all of that costs a tremendous amount of money, more so than it costs to run what's on your computer. And so because it's so expensive, that's why companies like Nvidia and other companies, AMD, all of this stuff, they've been going up so much because it's super expensive and people know that they're going to be using AI even more. So there was a forecast of how high it would continue to go based upon it being so expensive and people having to put out money for it. So here comes DeepSeek, and DeepSeek came out with their model and said, we can do this for maybe like an eighth of the cost that everyone else is saying it's going to be. So instead of $60 billion, it's going to cost $60 million or $6 million. So then that's why all the stocks crashed, because people are like, oh my God, this is what it's going to do, blah, blah, blah. But the question now is, okay, is this true?
Yeah.
Did they really find a way to do this so much cheaper?
But this is I don't think this is any exception to the way that the market always runs, right? It's all speculation. People making decisions on emotions, uh, and being forced to follow buy and sell trends because of big houses that are, making big money moves for their clients. So, it's the whole thing's, it could be bullshit, it could be real. I mean, look, why do you think Elon Musk is rich, right? It's because he bullshits a lot and people buy into what he's saying. Is it? And he's got nothing to actually back it up, but because he's a trusted quote unquote authority, people will believe what he says, and he's making money off of sales, right? Off of stocks.
Yes. So, okay, I think I found the clip I want to play. So hold on one second. I just want to play this. I want to play this. Up, up, up. Shoot, 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 shoot. Okay, let's go back. Is it this? Oh shoot! Dang it! Oh.
CEO of this company, Scale AI, which is one of these
Wait,
big.
Okay,
I just want to go back to what you said there about people not believing that this is a communist party conspiracy. And by the way, I'm not one of those people. I'm very suspicious of this. And there was one thing that was said by Alexander Wang, and this is the CEO of this company, Scale AI, which is one of these big AI software companies. And he said this at Davos. And this is just a slight, a slight suspicion that he raised, which is that DeepSeek claimed that they only used 10,000 GPUs. And he made the point that he believes that they actually have access to another 50,000 GPUs, but they're unable to disclose this because those GPUs are H100s and those are banned in China technically because of these export controls in America. So that was an example. And by the way, I don't know how he knows this. I don't know if it's even true, but I sort of latched onto that statement. And my reaction was, okay, well, if this guy knows something about this GPU wrinkle, which is probably, if it's true, a little bit more than a wrinkle, then what else don't we know about this company? I mean, you might summarize.
Okay. So basically, what he's saying there, and that was from Prop G Markets, that was Ed Olson. He's saying that there's this guy who is running this big company who's also too Chinese. And he knew that DeepSeek had access to more compute power than they said publicly that they used. And that not only did they have more compute power, but they were using, when he says H100s are NVIDIA's. And China is banned from using that. So he can't come out and say that he's using that. So his point is, whether or not that's true or not, since this guy said it, one, how this guy know this, right? And two, if he did know it, and it's not 100% true, he knew something because this is out there. So how true is it that they really can do this at a lesser cost? And it goes back to your point, Stephen, of Elon saying things and then people just believing it. And there's this idea in the SaaS world, for people who don't know, it's a term called vaporware. And essentially, you
And can you
have,
just in
yes, I was
SaaS,
just going to
what is?
explain what
Oh,
that
sorry, go on.
means. Yeah.
Yeah.
So essentially, what vaporware means is you have a product that you're marketing that's there, and you're selling it to people, and you sell it, you make a sale, but then once they get to the point where they have to implement it, it's not necessarily what you sold because it's really not 100% done yet. It's not really done. It's kind of there, but it's not all the way there. So it's not like you're saying that you don't have something, but you're not necessarily saying what you have is there. And this is a part of startups too. People talk about building the plane as you fly. And it's something that's just a rule, and it's that happens in business too. People call fake it till you make it. All of these things are similar in the sense of you have something, you're putting it out there, it may not be 100% you going in that direction, but you're not there yet. So I think that there's a lot of suspicion around DeepSeek, not to mention that it's, Chinese based. Our whole conflict with China directly. people are saying, is this real? People are questioning it. Now, I have seen, though, where people are showing that the model works and all of that, but it's not necessarily, again, there's some people who are saying the model doesn't, it does, et cetera, with OpenAI, but it's not necessarily about the model. It's about the compute. Is that true? So I thought this is really interesting. And then, again, I've been quoting Scott a lot on this podcast. So
You
Scott,
don't
I got to
say.
give you all this
You
reference.
don't say.
Not that you ever listened to this podcast, Scott
I think
Galloway,
Scott
but
needs to have you on as his guest because you are his number one fan.
that would be interesting. I would love that, but hey, that we'll see. But anyway, and I doubt he or anybody in his team listens to us. But my point is, he said that what was he talking about? See, I lost my point because you got me there and started talking about me being on his show. So thank you, Steven. And it was a good point too. Damn it! Well, it will come back, and I'll have to bring it up.
You were saying Scott said.
I know. I said Scott said, but oh wow, that's even closer. In terms of the volume, I know everybody's going to be like, "Keep it there, Roberta." I know, but it's like I don't want to be too loud. Scott we were talking about DeepSeek. Oh, he said that with any of these software programs, which is true, there's always a Walmart and there's always a Tiffany. And I really like that analogy. But essentially, there's always one that's cheaper for people who can come in at that price point, and there's always one that's higher, right? That people aspire to. So just because this is made cheaper is not going to necessarily change the game per se. So I thought that was an interesting perspective on it.
That is a good perspective.
All right.
Yeah. Okay. Let's call it a day.
We call it a day. We're at an hour. Look at us.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for listening in this week to Miscellaneous Candor. Frank, honest, and otherwise outspoken. Have a wonderful week, Steven.
Thank you, my friends, for joining us for another wonderful episode. Robbie going off the rails as usual. But regardless, I brought it back in for you folks so we could stay on track, have a good conversation. I look forward to next time. It is I, Stephen Kennedy, your board-certified atheist, at your service.
Okay, I cannot let this end with him saying that he's the one that brings it back all the time because I kept the thread going. Okay, everyone. See you next week.